This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom really is brought to you by...
What the fuck?
What's up, dude?
One of my renters broke the toilet again. That dude takes giant shits. Now I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Why don't you hire a property management company or something to take care of that stuff?
Because they suck, and they take 10%.
You know, our dude Hank owns and manages Heritage Realty Partners. I think he said he only charges 5%, and he visits each property at least once a month.
That's right, he's always posting beers from the road. You have his number?
Actually, I do. His personal number is 805-451-5734.
Perfect. Now he can deal with my renter's big shits.
Heritage Realty Partners.
For all your property management and investment needs.
Hey folks, Dookie Jones here for D. Jones Manure Hauling. You know, my grandpa Asamoah Jones started the first ever manure hauling company here in Hill Valley back in the late 1800s. He was passionate about keeping horse shit off the dirt streets of this great town, and he later passed the shovel on to my pa, Turd Jones. Turd gave the old family shit hauler a good wipe and made the transition from scooping hayfield chunks off the streets to cleaning up the surrounding pastures and farms that give Hill Valley its notable smell. And now for the last 50 years, I, Dookie Jones, have been knee-deep in shit, continuing my family's proud tradition of being the best damn pooper scoopers this side of the Mississippi. Nowadays, you may see my sons, Feces and Deuce, out there driving the family shipmobile all over Hill Valley. You can guarantee they won't leave one fleck of fecal matter on your ranch or homestead as they load that brown gold into the old stinkstone hauler. So if you've got doo-doo piling up and need that fanny fudge moved, call us and we'll be sure all those bum bullets end up in the cow pie factory we like to call the Hill Valley River. D. Jones Manure Hauling. The D is for Dookie.
Feces and Deuce.
Shit thesaurus or something? Yeah,
Feces and Deuce.
I went to slang words for poo.
That's so funny.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just to blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. It's Scott, Zach, and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Hey, BVK! It is time for a new movie pod, and we are coming at you with something special. Okay, special to me. I don't know about y'all. I got a little ahead of myself here, so I'm hoping that you all share the same love.
I think it's pretty special. Like, pretty universally special.
Yeah, it's very rare that you find somebody who says, "Oh, that movie's dog shit," or that just really doesn't like it. And if you guys have stories about that, I definitely want to hear, because we are talking today about Back to the Future. We're going with the OG Part 1 of Back to the Future, directed by Robert Zemeckis and written by Bob Gale. It is a classic of cinema from the 1980s. It came out in 1985. A budget of $19 million.
That's insane to me. Like, that's
But
all the tech and
$1988. That's probably a lot.
But still.
But cumulative worldwide gross of $383 million. So it did pretty well, and it obviously created an empire of a couple sequels and merchandising and video games and all sorts of a ride at Universal theme parks.
Best ride ever.
That's what I've heard. I've heard people. I never got to ride it, and I actually watched the YouTube walkthrough or like view of it. They have like all of it in HD now.
Is it not? Is it still there? Or is it?
No. They took it down. I think it became the Simpsons rides.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but it was badass. It was kind of like
It was a great ride.
It was like Star Tours, but like with just a big screen instead. You're in that little room, and so you're like your chair moves and shit. It was.
Yeah, and I heard
super
like
fun.
all like the line and stuff. There was like parts of the plot. They actually had Tom Wilson and Christopher Lloyd both involved in it. So. Pretty neat stuff. But Back to the Future, guys. I want to get some thoughts first. So we'll start with the youngster of the group. Zach, how important or how much do you care about this movie?
So this is a movie that's really weird for me because I always thought that it was kind of okay as a youngster.
Interesting.
And then I watched
but I didn't see it in the theater or anything. You know, it was just
Right.
like one that I watched like randomly, and I was like, okay, that was okay. And then I watched Back to the Future 2, and I was like, this is the one. And I still maintain that Back to the Future 2 is the superior Back to the Future movie. However, as an adult, I've watched Back to the Future a couple of times. The first one, the one that we're talking about today, I've watched it a couple of times. And I can see why people liked it. I just felt like the 1950s, like, high school stuff was real over my head, and I didn't really get it, and it was kind of boring to me, honestly, as a kid. And the flying cars future stuff was just so cool to me. So that's pretty much my reasoning behind it. But I really like this movie. I like it better as an adult now that I sort of understand the sort of nuance of, like, because when you're a kid, you don't really understand that shit was that different in the 1950s or 60s or whatever it is. And watching it now, I totally get all the jokes, and I think it's great.
Right. The fact that they portray Marty's mom portrays herself as a prude, like when she's in the 85, but then you go back and you get to like see the nuance of, oh, actually she was kind of a wild chick.
All that shit was over my head
Yeah.
when I first watched it, and I was just like, yeah, this is cool, you know. But yeah, definitely better as an adult when I actually get the jokes.
I mean, it came out when you were 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just saying, I wonder when you saw it, right? Like,
I mean, probably like 10. I mean, I don't know, maybe even younger than that. But
Well, you probably saw it on a shitty TV, you know.
Oh, for sure on a shitty
And so
TV.
that's the spectacle of everything. The special effects is going to mean nothing.
and there
to
was
you.
no like Wikipedia to explain the plot to me. There was no like I had nothing. And then my mom wasn't going to explain to me the complex relationship of Marty and his mom. You know what I mean? So it was like I was just kind of lost in the woods.
You're on your own, kid.
Yeah.
Nate Dogg, how about yourself, man?
So I don't remember the first time I saw this. I'm sure it wasn't in the theater in '85. That would have been too early. I'd seen a couple movies in theater, but this would have been more notable. But I'm sure I also saw it early, you know, probably before the second one came out in '89. And my earliest memories of it were that it was what movies were. I mean, it was like magic, you know, in the sense that, you know, and for me, maybe like one of the rare kind of perfect blends of things that I think I've come to not like as much, or like not be drawn to as much. But I mean, it's a really compelling story in the sense that, like, it's not complex, but it's really meaningful. And there's just enough like interesting points of tension in it and meaning, you know, and like significance to the story. The characters are all like, you care about them right away, in ways that are sort of, I don't want to say complicated, right? But it's like they're not totally cardboard characters, especially for a movie that's not trying to be in any way dark or complex. The characters have a little bit of depth to them, right? You ask some questions about why McFly's dad is the way he is, and why, you know, exactly the point about the mom, right? It's like there's this, you know, what's the, you know, you kind of right away you're like, wait a minute, you know, what's the put on about, right? Is she still that wildcat underneath? You know, is she still that kook
Broken by George.
So I don't know. There are a lot of things about it that I liked, and on this rewatch saw in that way. But I think, you know, the biggest thing about it that is hard to understate is there are time travel movies before this. This doesn't invent it, but it's like the birth of the modern era of time travel movies, right? There's very few before this. They don't have, other than some like renditions of the movie of like The Time Machine. There's like a movie that, you know, it's been remade a few times, which has a cool time travel device. It's like it's like it just sets off this firestorm of time travel. And so the fact they do it so cool, and that's such a complex and interesting concept to be able to explore in movies,
and I don't
is
know,
a home run right there.
And I don't know if they've done the thing where what you do in the past affects
Exactly.
the future. And that was the thing that blew my mind, I remember.
So
when
it
I
wasn't
saw
like going back to the Jurassic period and just seeing some dinosaurs and shit, which
Right.
is cool.
Right.
But it was like the whole thing about everything you do in the past affects the future.
Right.
This is the first time I saw a movie, and even like I think I was young enough I didn't really get that part of it. But it's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
You guys, you know what I would do if I could go back in time?
Oh God.
He's got this little
Hit
grin
start
on
on
his face.
the recording.
No, but that would have been a terrible but hilarious joke. But I would go back and, you know, mention at the beginning of this pod that we're part of the Deluxe Edition Network.
Oh,
Oh,
And, you know, it is now July.
it is.
So we're still part of the year.
And so he's looking at me. So the pods of the month for July are In a Pickle and Growing Up Bananas. In a Pickle is a sports talk show and super entertaining. And Growing Up Bananas is an Australian podcast about growing up in Australia as an Asian in Australia. So
Holy shit.
really cool. And I would like
Both
to
food-based.
to send out a personal apology for fucking up last month when I said Barrel Aged Flicks was the pod of the month last month. It's Barrel Aged Chicks, which is another podcast, and they actually do a lot of crossovers and super fun. And they actually do a very similar thing as us. They do a Fuck, Marry, Kill segment and take a subject and do that. So,
Ladies, we apologize.
We apologize
That was
for
our bad.
shout
I mean,
out.
okay, ladies, we apologize for Scott.
it was
That's
my
what we do.
fault.
Shout out to you. I don't think Scott's a piece of shit, like you guys said in our DMs, but I mean,
All right, so now we're going to go ahead and
Okay.
travel back to the present and Scotch.
Yeah, I wish I could travel back in time and watch this again like the first time, because I did see this in the theater as the elder member of the pod, as you guys like to remind me
Like 20
often.
or
they only showed like one movie a day, right?
Right.
You could smoke in there and shit.
But yeah, I think
Guy playing the piano during the movie for the sound.
I was like 10 or 11 when it came out, and it was just an amazing experience. Blew my mind. One of the greatest endings and setups to a sequel ever. And just how excited the theater was when, he's like, we got to go back, and so.
And dropping that giant to be continued at the.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not often you actually get a to be continued on a movie like that.
Especially
it's also
number one.
Right.
Where you're just like, man,
It's already
you're
greenlit.
really putting all your money on this,
Yeah.
right? Like you think people are going to like it.
But I can just imagine in 1985 sitting there watching that movie, and like, even when I watch it now, like, there's some special effects that are like a little wonky, but nothing super stands out. You're like, this is pretty good for 1985, right?
pretty
Right.
good.
But at the end of the movie, you get the to be continued, and the car flies.
Right.
I mean, that had to just people would just be
People
losing their fucking mind.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Because you don't see a lot of flying car. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fucking cool.
It was amazing in the theater, and I've watched it tons of times over the years, catch it pieces here and there and whatever. And when you announced we were doing this one, I was super excited. Then I sat down and started watching it, and it's just like, I don't know if I've just seen it too many times, and I just sat there and nitpicked the shit out of it, and I just hated myself for doing it. But I mean, I still appreciated it, and I have so much love and nostalgia for this movie, but it's kind of hard to watch when you've seen it so many times that you're starting to kind of nitpick, and it's like, I shouldn't do that, and I just wish I could just go back in time and forget.
Now, nitpicking the timeline or like.
There's all kinds. I'm going to get into it later
Okay.
a little
that
bit.
sounds good.
I
That
have
sounds
some
good.
too.
But yeah, so just little stupid things. But,
So, Zach, before I talk about my own situation, I do want to say, like, so with it, watching it in high def, I was thinking, like, okay, like Leah Thompson, her makeup when she's old is going to look bad. But I looked at it and I was like, surprisingly, you can't really even tell. Like, they made her up to look old, and it doesn't stand out that there's like a whole bunch of makeup. I mean, it said like 3 hours to do her makeup.
all the makeup looks really, really good. Yeah, there's
Pretty impressed.
One special effect that it actually kind of bothered me back then, but it's when the car first disappears when they're testing it with Einstein.
standing in the
He's standing
fire.
in the fire. I'm like, it just, his foot is literally in the middle of the track, and it just always bothered me.
I know
and it looks
exactly
kind of
that
shitty
shot.
now. The fire looks
I've
bad.
thought
in
that since
HD.
I was little. Now, this movie for me, I know I did not see it in the theater. I for sure saw Back to the Future 2 in the theater, so I was 10 years old then. So I know my love for this movie built well before seeing it at the old Garden Cinemas in Turlock. Is that what it's called? Garden? No, Valley?
Vintage.
Vintage?
No, what are you talking about?
Turlock?
You're talking about
Turlock.
the only theater in Turlock?
The only theater in
The
Turlock.
one behind Taco Bell?
Yes. What was that?
Wasn't that Vintage Fair?
Valley Cinemas?
I think it was Valley. Yeah.
Valley Cinemas. I think we argued about this. Like,
Vintage
Vintage Fair?
Fair's the mall.
The
one.
mall. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Damn it.
yeah. So I think we argued about this a few pods ago. But anyway, so this movie though, I know I watched it as a probably 7-year-old, 6-year-old, 8-year-old, right around there.
Mm-hmm.
And it became just a staple. It's like something like we watch all the time. It was just like, you want to put something on, put Back to the Future on. And then of course 2 comes out, and then the year right after that 3, and it's like it was 6 months. I think it was like a 6 months
It was really
turnaround
quick.
for 2 and 3. And knowing that 3 was filmed up in Jamestown, which is pretty dang close
Not
to us,
far from here.
It was all like it felt like our movie. It was like our family's movie, and I think there's something to be said about like if you polled my family like what's our movie, I think Back to the Future is going to be the hands down the number one answer.
I remember people like getting all excited. This is before the internet and all that stuff. But like, it's like I saw the DeLorean on the back of a trailer being pulled through Modesto, and it's like,
Oh, wow.
they're on the
No
way up.
shit.
Yeah, because they filmed it right up there in Jamestown, number 3, and so yeah, I remember hearing people talking about like seeing all this stuff, and yeah.
But just a perfect movie in the sense that it's got a fun sci-fi. It's got good acting. I mean, you could argue about that, but I think it's at least interesting acting. Like, there's characters.
There's a lot of choices made.
Yeah, a lot of interesting choices, but just a lot of fun, man. It's like it's very difficult to show this. I'm sure this to my kids. They like it. Definitely, they're not as into it as I was or my family is, but they're part of my family.
I was going to ask about
eventually,
that,
maybe they'll
about
like
this
it.
generation, if they get it, if they like it or not.
They like it, but they're not like, hey, let's put on Back to the Future.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just the fact that we all have a billion options now, but I know if there was movie night, somebody in our family was probably saying, hey, let's watch Back to the Future.
I watched it with my boys at some point, maybe a couple years ago. So they were probably like 8 and 10 or something like that. And the part that stood out for me was that they thought it was boring. And B, they were like, I just remember them being like, what's manure? I was like, it's poop. They're like, that didn't look like poop. That looked like mud. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess it's just, maybe some mud mixed with poop. I guess I don't know. They were like real skeptical on like the manure was actually
Like
poop.
somebody been stepping on the manure.
Yeah, they were like that doesn't look like poop.
Like somebody's cutting that manure with a lot of mud.
I've never taken a poop that looks like that, Dad.
Probably, there's some fentanyl.
Damn
in the mud.
Dookie
trust me.
Jones cutting his poop. That's right. Is this 100% pure manure? No, we cut it with fresh dirt. There's a story from Bob Gale, who is the writer of this movie, and he says that he got the idea for this movie after looking at his dad's yearbook and then wondering to himself, would he be friends with his parents in high school? Like, would he have been friends with them? So I'm gonna throw that question out to you guys real quick. Like, do you think would you have gotten along with your parents, like if you were a classmate of theirs?
I think so. I think my dad and I are extremely similar, which is the reason we didn't get along for a long time. Now we get along really well, but I think that as young men, we were probably pretty fucking similar.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think my dad would have been my best friend in high school if we had been the contemporaries. I think we have the right things in common. I think he would have been like, he would have been my closest friend. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's hard to say because how were they really in high school? I think my dad was probably pretty quiet, but he was also on the football team, so I think we definitely would have played football together, and I think we would have been buds. As for my mom, who knows? I was friends with everybody in school. I was kind of like I had all the different groups. I was in band, and then I was in ag, and so I like kind of had all these different groups I was in, and I was also a jock. So yeah, I think I would have been friends with anybody.
All right. Well, second question then.
Brad.
Would your moms would have wanted to bone you?
Are you in Ren? Are you in Ren friends?
I was trying to avoid. No, I think my dad, he was one of those again. He was kind of a tweener as well. He was a musician, loved playing music, but also was a jock as well. But I think he's the type that kind of would have gone along with everybody, and I was kind of the same way in high school. So I think we would have. I think we would have been cool with each other.
You could have been in his wizard band.
Yeah, for sure. I would have been all about that. Yeah. But yeah, so
you would have been like that guy in those ska bands. You would have been like the skanker on stage.
Oh yeah, just dancing around. Oh, I do like
running the
spells,
running the laser,
a big
machine.
staff for sure. So, moms, would they have wanted to get with you?
I don't think so. I think my mom was like super cool. She was like head cheerleader, like super cool chick, and I think she probably wouldn't. I don't think I was that cool.
I think
Absurd question.
I think Zach's mom would have wanted to get with me.
There it is.
Nate's so
Wendy.
happy because
Wendy.
he knows she's gonna listen to this.
If you're listening, Wendy, which you are, oh my gosh.
She's blushing right now because she knows that's true.
I'm not answering this fucking question.
So what a wild premise, though, for a movie. I mean, the fact that it's like, I mean, it does involve some weird incest. He does kiss his mom, but they kind of instantly get the feeling that it isn't right.
His mom kisses him.
Well, okay, yeah. That's true. They don't kiss each other.
He knows it's his mom.
Right. if he went for it, then we'd have a problem.
I mean, Leah Thompson is freaking hot, but I mean, it's still your mom, bro. You got to be like, all right.
Yeah.
You got to play the long game here.
But
what if the twist at the end was that he's his dad?
He's his own dad.
Oh, I don't think he gets a part 2. I really don't.
You should have saved that for alternate endings, dude. Damn it.
Oh, you missed. That's a big miss right there.
What's going on?
All right,
There might be
let's
some
cut that out. I'm going to add that at the
end. All right, so Robert Zemeckis, a legend of cinema, directed this thing. Should we bring him in to talk for a little bit?
Dude, same guy that did. I guess we're going to talk about it right now. Let's move it.
Pull up a chair and grab yourself a drink. We'll hypothesize what directors think. Maybe sometimes get a guess. Makes us look good. Let's drink, laugh, and pretend we know what we're doing. Drinking with the director, brought to you by Last Call Brewing.
Zach showing no respect for Scotchback Pickles. I mean, come on.
Since when has he?
Zach burped, and I was like, fuck it, I'm singing over
I
it.
pointed it at the sky. I didn't think it would be caught on all the mics. But I guess the mics were still hot, huh, Brad?
They sure were. So, Robert Zemeckis, he has been making movies for quite a while. But we've done a Robert Zemeckis film not too long ago. Forrest Gump, just recently. So, he has made some legendary movies. And we have him in here to give him a chat. So what do y'all think?
I want you to give me like a quick, if you have it pulled up, like a quick rundown of the highlights of him, because I didn't realize he did this and Forrest Gump. Like
Castaway.
Okay. I mean, I'm not a huge Castaway guy.
I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, how hard was it to do Castaway? You're like, all right, I have one actor in this movie. It's the best actor of all time. And do your thing.
So
you know
he does.
I feel like it's an easy fucking movie.
A classic comedy. Used Cars is one of his first things. Then he does a classic rip-off of Indiana Jones. He's like, oh, Spielberg and Lucas doing Indiana Jones. Well, I can drop Romancing the Stone.
Okay.
Well, but what's interesting about that,
fairness.
real quick, is that's the movie that got this made, from what I understand. Like
Because that was a huge hit.
Because that was a hit.
Huge hit.
The show he
comedy.
could have a hit, and because this thing wasn't greenlit at first, and because at the time, like the hot because this was considered a comedy, science fiction comedy or whatever, and like the comedies at the time that were successful were Animal House, Porky's, and Fast Times. So like this was like completely different than what was popular at the time, and so this was rejected like 40 times when they would submit it to get made.
Is the sci-fi comedy non-spoof still even a thing? I mean, when you think like you said
Sci-fi comedy?
Yeah, I mean, really, like there's like horror comedy now. Like those blends happen from time to time. Can you think of another sci-fi comedy that isn't like Starship Troopers, which is a spoof, or Spaceballs, just spoof?
The only ones I can think of are stuff like Palm Springs, which like funnily enough are not super sci-fi, but they do have a sci-fi element to it, and also like play with time in a way. Like there's a couple of them. Like Adam Devine had a movie not too long ago where he like was going kind of back and forth in time.
The Night We Met.
There's a couple of them that I can think of, but ones that aren't like straight up satire or spoofy, like I can't.
I mean, maybe that's a little secret sauce that we haven't paid enough attention to, which is, a really, really well done sci-fi comedy where this is just sci-fi enough to be more than like what you're talking about, right? It's not, Palm Springs. It's got more real, like legit sci-fi than Palm Springs. Not just the time travel coolness, but also a lot of homage to like legit sci-fi, right? He looks like he's an alien. There's all kinds of, like.
Well, what's funny is that
references.
like it's more science fiction, where those other ones are kind of like magic fiction. You know what I mean? Like he happens to be going back in time because of like some sort of magic thing, and not because of like a machine.
Yeah, more almost like sort of sci-fi fantasy crossover thing. But anyway, it's an interesting one, right? It seems like it's a big miss.
I'd like to go back in time again if we could. And this is Drinking with the Director, and maybe we should go around and see what we're drinking.
Man, we got to get our time machine out again.
Yeah,
Gosh dang it. All right. So, yeah. How about we talk about when we've been very
dropping the ball on this a lot.
We've struggled. We always say drinking with the director, but because we don't have to say it anymore. It plays, and so we stop thinking about it. But yeah, so this episode of Bev's Video Kingdom is, as always, brought to you by Last Call Brewing out of Oakdale, California. And I am drinking a flip-flop tank top. It is my summer go-to. It is delicious. I think Zach's got one here as well. It's just a pretty little can. It reminds you of a nice little evening sunset at the beach. And it's a tropical ale that is just delicious. A little hint of sea salt on the end. It's got some guava flavors, but it's just Walter kills it. He knows that I'm one of the biggest fans of this beer, and I look forward to it every summer. So it's out there. You can get it at 4-packs at Last Call Brewing. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna say, I'm drinking the Last Call beer. It's delicious. Our boy Walter brewed it up, but I just want to give a shout out to his beautiful wife Kendra, who I went to her restaurant that she manages the other day and had a delicious lunch. And she came out and talked to us and made an appearance and everything. And she's just great.
You felt
I just want to give her a shout out.
You're a superstar, didn't
Well,
you?
yeah, it was fucking awesome.
You country clubbing now. Huh?
Oh, dude, it was a good time, and the food was fucking great. They have a Reuben sandwich at that restaurant. It was really good.
Nice.
Anyways,
Our girl Kendra kills.
That's exactly my point.
She's a killer.
The point of bringing it up is that she's killing it, and hopefully
we're
she
gonna have
hears
more Kendra here on Bev's. So I'm drinking some Diet Pepsi, but I went a little hard in the paint today. I was I got about a couple knuckles worth of Basil Hayden left in that bottle, and it's gonna go mix with my Diet Pepsi, and they're gonna make friends.
Couple knuckles
in my belly.
Love it. Yeah, and then Nate was nice enough to lend me a bottle of his George Dickel rye whiskey. He puts the dick in whiskey.
Yeah, dude.
George Dickel.
Is that really what it says?
Well, he said he put
That's
his
what
dick in the
I
whiskey.
said I put my dick in the whiskey.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, some lovely rye whiskey from George Dickel.
Well, and Nate got him a nice, big ice cube for that whiskey, like he should. But have you guys ever heard this? I was at a restaurant in San Diego, and I got a Maker's 46, and they said, "Oh, do you want regular ice or do you want a whiskey cube?" I went, "Whiskey cube, of course." Not knowing they just fucking upcharged me $2 for that big ice cube.
Are you serious?
They legit
So
did.
that's whack. I mean, usually,
And I was like, wait, what? I had to pay $2 extra because I wanted the normal whiskey appropriate ice cube.
It's horseshit.
that's bullshit.
The water was free both ways. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure why.
Unless they're carving that shit off of some big block and had
glacier.
to put any effort in. I
It's
don't think.
glacier ice.
It's probably paying for the mold that they made of the cook's balls that they that they had to freeze the ice cube in.
That's probably
That's
true.
a veiny ice cube right there.
Look at this thing.
But an otherwise delicious meal at I forgot what it was even called, but it was
Fuck them. Don't advertise.
No,
that.
don't advertise that
$2
shit.
for a
$2
fucking-
ice cube.
What's
Bullshit.
up, charging motherfuckers?
Absolute bullshit. All right, so we're back in the time machine.
Yes, we are.
We jumped forward now. We're with Zemeckis, and we were going through some of his things, and so we got to Back to the Future, which was 85, and then he follows that up with, in between 1 and 2, he follows that up with Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is just, I think, a legendary movie.
Controversial.
A legendary movie that is just super entertaining. Then he does, of course, the 89, 90 Back to the Future 2 and 3. Death Becomes Her. It was kind of a swing and a miss.
I actually liked that movie when I was a kid.
Kind of a
I liked it
weird
when I was a
one.
kid.
Some cool special
I haven't seen it in
effects.
years,
Yeah.
but-
Very cool special effects. And then all of a sudden you've got Forrest Gump, which was gigantic. Contact. Then he goes What Lies Beneath, Castaway, The Polar Express, Beowulf. He starts getting into that whole animation, rotoscope
Yeah.
type
Dude,
thing or whatever
have
it
you guys
was.
seen Beowulf?
I haven't.
That animated thing. It's fucking crazy.
What's it called?
The Beowulf. So it's the classic story.
Beowulf.
Beowulf. What? Nothing. Did I say it wrong or something, you fucker?
I'm sorry, I'm being an asshole.
You say it like I did.
Yeah.
Woof.
You guys both say woof. And it's
Beowulf.
funny to me.
It's a silent L. Everyone knows it's a
Beowulf?
silent L. It's Beowulf. Is what the
I think it's
goddamn,
Beowulf.
goddamn Ammon farmers and
I
their
know.
L's.
Yeah,
they have
Beowulf.
to struggle
Say
with
L's.
those L's.
I'm being an asshole. Keep going.
This is new. No, it's watch it on a big screen with fucking surround sound. And
It's
it'll
like
blow your mind.
It's like animated.
It's motion capture animation.
So it's like Polar Express, like he's talking about, right? Yeah.
It's better than you think it is. It's super violent, super fucking insane.
It's a crazy story. I read
Yeah.
it in like 6th grade or something.
So,
Made a storybook about it.
And then from that point, things get a little weird. I mean, he does Flight, which is arguably a good movie. Some people think the
saw it.
performance is good, but it's not necessarily the best movie. A movie called The Walk. Allied.
The Walk is about the guy who walked across the Twin Towers. It's
the tightrope
based
one.
on a true story. And first of all, that's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
Oh, about that family of like rope walkers?
No. It's just about one guy. He's a French dude, and I can't think of the name of him, but or the documentary right now. But it's fantastic. It's really, really good.
Huh. And then Allied, welcome to Marwen, The Witches, and Pinocchio. That's like been his last things. And I know Pinocchio was a bomb.
I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but he really took a shit.
Yeah, he fell off. Polar Express fucked us up.
Pretty much after like Castaway, and according to Zach, after Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
more or less.
I don't know. There's a couple in there that I liked.
Yeah, but I mean, like for somebody that did Back to the Future trilogy and Forrest Gump, which I mean,
Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
and in fairness, like that's a career right there. Right,
that's what I'm saying. When I heard he did
who
both,
cares,
of those,
right? I mean, I kind of relate to that. I'm like,
I felt like he was always in Spielberg's shadow. Like he was not ever getting enough credit as a director. Like I think if you go through the 90s and early 2000s and say like name director, I don't think anybody's saying his name first. I think it's always going to be Spielberg.
I don't think he's even mentioned in the Spielberg, Lucas, like.
Oh no, not even.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah,
but I mean, I think it's because like he's not prolific in terms of it's like his two best are as good or better than anything they did.
Best, but
but the next level down stuff for him is 5 steps down.
He doesn't have that Super 8 in there to bring them.
I actually didn't know that he directed this until like last year, and I thought it was Spielberg this whole time.
I would have bet it was Spielberg.
Yeah.
He's an executive producer, correct?
I know.
Yeah, probably was.
For some reason, I just
Spielberg
thought it was
probably
Spielberg.
did. He probably
Yeah, Spielberg's name shows up, I think, first in like the.
It's Steven Spielberg Presents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spielberg would have had a scene, like a super cheesy scene between Marty and the Doc, where they were like, "I love you."
No, I'm so thankful that Spielberg didn't direct this
so
shit.
surfy and stupid.
Because I'm still on my Spielberg sort of sucks more than everybody knows train. So.
All right, so I do have a few things to ask. Like first off, how did Doc get in touch with the Libyans? Like this is pre-internet. I mean, there was some form of the internet, like with like 300 baud modems and stuff.
Not really.
Right.
Some weird thing called quantum link, and like there was some stuff that existed at that time. But how is Doc Brown getting in touch with Libyans to possibly make them bombs and somehow sneaking stolen uranium from them?
Right. Well, I mean, he mentioned something
Or
about
plutonium, I'm sorry,
a family
plutonium.
fortune, and but maybe he had, because he's a scientist, maybe he did some stuff for the military or something somewhere along
Made
the way.
some connections?
Made some connections. That's the only thing I can think of. But you make a good point. I never thought about that.
Do you send letters back and forth? Like how?
Right.
They're pen pals for a while first.
Just checking the relationship out. So
I got another Doc question of the similar sort, which is how did he and Marty become friends?
that's always the eternal.
Like I don't think I've ever asked that of myself before this watch, and I was like, wait a minute.
More
Like,
or less inappropriate / predatory than Mr. Miyagi and Danielson's relationship. Which one are we going with is more creepy?
So he
I
did,
think
but
Doc Brown's is.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Danielson immediately he goes to him to learn how to defend himself.
Right,
And Mr. Miyagi
and
is the one who
Miyagi's
finds
a
them all
little
beat
bit
up.
like, whatever, like, okay, I'll teach you, but that's like a more of a. Doc Brown's not mentoring Marty; he's grooming him.
He's just
They're-
like, hang
they're
out, take
best
your pants
friends.
off.
He has the key to his house. He can let himself in and like use his stuff and
Why- yeah.
Yeah, why does he have a giant amp? Doc
to
Brown don't
entertain-
play the guitar.
Yeah, he's entertaining Marty.
Yeah, he's like, I'll build you a big amp.
That's a lure.
I mean, maybe he just didn't have friends in high school, so he's like now he's just kind of reliving his like high school. Like, you know what? I want to have some high school
I
friends.
feel
that are
like
fun,
if-
my buddies.
Yeah, I feel like if Marty sits in the wrong seat on the couch, there's like a mechanical hand that comes out from behind him, like pushing his head down. You know what I mean?
Nice little invention. There could be something.
No, but seriously, think about it though. If you're in high school and there's a guy that has all these cool fucking gadgets and inventions and shit,
No, yeah.
wouldn't you want to hang out with that guy
Totally.
too?
But
And
also,
then-
if any of us were
No,
in
I
high
wouldn't.
school and we knew a guy that had like a 60-year-old friend and that was his best friend, would we all not be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh
there?
no! Can we?
Well, we don't see
can
any
be
other
less
friends with him.
Can we be less abstract? I mean, I remember specific incidents of like friends of ours who like at some point became really good friends with like a 60-year-old dude, and we were like, "What's up with that?"
That's true.
To be
I know
fair,
what I'm
Big
talking
situations now. Fuck, I forgot
let's
about that.
be real though. I really enjoy being friends with Scott and the Gov. So I mean, this is normal
It's
stuff.
less weird. Well,
And that, folks, is Zach's Scotch's old joke for this episode.
Well, I mean,
right.
jokes on you because I'm grooming the fuck out of you, buddy. You're sucking this cock later.
Well, also they
That was good.
Did they have a suicide pact? Because also, not only does Doc is friends with this young kid, but what if that DeLorean doesn't hit 88 miles per hour at the right moment?
number one
Why are they
question.
standing right directly in front of it? Because if that
so
goes
dumb.
wrong, both of them are
No
dead.
reason for that.
And these are the things I was nitpicking this whole
This
fucking
is my-
time.
that was my number one.
Perfect
like,
example.
You couldn't have stepped 5 feet to the left and been like, well, let's see if this works.
I guarantee I'm going to be just as impressed with your time machine, whether it just warps out of existence in front of me or if I'm off to the side and it warps out of existence. I'm going to be just as shocked both ways. You don't have to run it right at me.
Well, this is my alternate ending, right? The movie gets 20 minutes in, they both get run over, dead, over.
That would actually be a great movie, like of like the people discovering this now. The government gets called in. They're like, holy shit, this guy was trying to build a time machine, and like, it could be intrigue, some interesting stuff. Who gets a hold of it?
So-
Who takes control?
Along the same lines of that scene, it's in the same scene. It's the first time he's done this experiment, right? Because he's like, it works. He has first time. Why did he put the dog in the car? He doesn't. It's not driving the car. He's doing it remote control. Why throw your beloved friend in the front seat? You don't need to put anything in it except for the stopwatch.
No. You
No,
gotta
he
know
needed a living
things
thing to
can
live.
travel
But
with
I
it.
think you probably use not your best friend. Well, I guess Marty is his best
I
friend.
Go to
think
the pound.
You find a cat, a stray cat on the way to
Chuck
the
it in.
mall. You just throw it in there and say, good luck, kitty.
Yeah.
Instead, Einstein, but I guess he's just got the balls. Where he's like, not only am I going to put my dog in this thing, but the first time it runs at us, I'm going to stand in front of it because if it goes bad, fuck it.
Doc Brown ain't nothing but Doc Brown's nothing if he's not cocksure. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my lord! Yeah, that was always my question. Why did they stand right in front of it?
Yeah.
Kind of outlandish.
All right, so,
And then why'd they keep standing in the fire?
all right. So I got a question for all of you, and I want to. This is going to be a tough one, I think. Who's a bigger dick? The principal in Back to the Future or the principal in Breakfast Club?
The principal in Breakfast Club is the big thing because he's just smarmy and douchey. Like I was just saying, principal whatever his name is, Strickland. He's just hard nosed, old school.
But he's like
just
unprovoked, and he's like, "You're a loser. Your dad was a loser. You're always gonna be a loser." Like it's just like I was like taken aback. I'm like, bro, like
Whoa.
that would never stand here. And
Breakfast,
he's old school.
Breakfast Club, he does that too with Bender. He
does.
He gets personal with him.
No, he does get personal with him, but it's like not until Bender's a dick. Like Marty's just this guy
true.
that's late for school.
That is a good point because Bender in
Like,
Breakfast Club
"You're
does
late?
provoke it.
You're late again. Your fucking life's over.
And he's
You
like,
might as well just jump in a fucking lake with a brick around your ankles.
He makes more appearances too in the second one. You remember the second one?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like got a shotgun on his porch.
Oh
and
yeah,
shit.
yeah. No, there's some good shit with him. But and isn't he a mandated reporter? Shouldn't he be like? He's like, oh, I hear you're hanging out with Doc Brown again. Like, what is he
60s, bro.
insinuating? Like,
mandated reporter.
Well,
He's delinquent on that internet training, I guess.
how uncomfortable were you? Because it made me uncomfortable when he was talking to him in the hallway that first time, and he gets up to him, and their noses actually touch. That's not fucking legal, bro.
That's definitely not legal.
hey,
definitely-
well, things are going to change.
Yeah, when
Know
they
what
go
it
back.
says?
When they go back to the future.
I thought you were gonna say like I'm gonna make it so that we can do that to kids again.
know, I was like,
okay,
you got some
Brad?
insight?
Is that where you're
Nose to
going?
nose contacts coming back.
No, he says no. In the history of Hill Valley, he goes, well, history is going to change.
That's right. Yeah.
That sets it off. History is going to change.
Okay.
I just
Such a
don't know
great
why
line.
why their noses have to touch. It bothered me.
Okay, now I have a question for you, Scott. So they jump right from there, and this is, I mean, Hill Valley's not a huge town, right? I mean, we got to imagine that this is similar to where we grew up. Maybe let's give it. We'll be benefit of it out. We'll say it's a 15,000 person town.
Sure.
High school might have been 1,000.
Oakdale's probably a good example.
Or Turlock.
What are the odds that that school has that many fully equipped, fully put together bands?
Oh, no fucking
so
way.
many that like he gets 6 chords into the song where he's pretty much ripping, and they're like, "Nah, you're not good enough."
Yeah.
And there's all these emo kids like lined up. The Cure and stuff is like sitting off to the side with all their entire kits and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like they don't just go up and play the same kit. They each have to bring their
They
own
have
drum
their own
set.
gear.
Do we want to get into the musical nitpicks that I have?
Yes, for the love of God, yes.
Are we going to talk about fingering?
Well,
God, all this knuckle and fingering talk tonight.
That's
an exciting thought.
6 to
I
midnight.
just literally was gonna say that.
not great air guitar at all. And then that was something I noticed for sure was all the bands lined up and ready. Wouldn't be that many fucking bands for a school dance competition. That's bullshit. The fact that Marty he he screws his band by just going into this guitar solo.
Yeah, he's terrible.
And that's and the guitar solo is terrible. That's my problem, and especially the guitar solo at the dance at the Enchantment Under the Sea in the 50s.
Dog shit.
It doesn't match the music, dude.
Oh yeah,
And
he tries taking it super metal when
He
it's
tries
not
to go
supposed
real
to be.
Van Halen.
it doesn't match the chords or anything of the song. So that just always bugged me. And then, of course, the biggest thing of all is the amp at the beginning of the fucking movie. And it's like he cranks all the dials up, and then he plugs it in. And it doesn't make a fucking sound.
That was I kept waiting. I was waiting for that this time. Having played a little more music and had Scott look at me like, "Do not fucking unplug that while my amp is on." I was like, "Oh shit, it's gonna click. It's gonna make a really big sound." And I was like, "Wait a minute."
It would have made the biggest pop ever, and just
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's
Yeah.
the stupid shit that I didn't notice when I was a kid, which I wish I could forget and enjoy. I just wish I could love things again.
Well, and how loud had he played it before? Like, I mean,
That
it sounds
was
like
my question.
He
Right.
says that it has some chance of surging today or whatever, so it's like he has an excuse for it. But like, how loud was it playing? Like, how does he have any hearing left?
Well, no musician in the history of music ever takes everything and puts it all the way to the top.
This one goes to 11.
Right.
Especially when the speaker's way bigger than you.
He for sure has tinnitus, though. But, my thing about him is like he's the worst guy that you ever want to play in a band with because he's only worried about his solo and him being louder than everybody else and just being the fucking cocksure guy running around in the front of the fucking thing. It's no good.
So
I don't like it.
This also leads into a question I had for Zemeckis. It's like you couldn't get anybody that sounded a little less like a grown-ass man and more like a kid in high school when you sang Johnny Be Good.
I know it was a weird choice.
It's just the voice isn't even close. Like it just
Yeah, and it's not like
and I get it, but come on, it's supposed to be him singing and it's just not even close. I remember this back in the theater going, okay, that's just not him.
That's not him.
And you'd think that they'd do a better job with that. So that just has always bothered me.
I've got another question for Zemeckis, which is, so when we see at the Twin Pines Mall, soon to be Lone Pine Mall, Doc Brown's van, his big like utility van thing that he's
His
got.
pedophile van.
It says on the side, it says Dr. Brown 24-hour scientific services. What kind of business is 24-hour scientific services? And when were you going to wake up at 3:30 in the morning? Goddamn, we need some science right now.
Lot of dope.
Call that Doc Brown. Let's do this.
That's a code word for something that you need at 3 in the morning.
A lot of scientific
Doc, come
dildos going on
science
there.
me.
Yeah.
All right, so we've shit on it a little bit here, but I have to like turn here, and I want to know. Concrete. How did he come up with the idea for Marty skateboarding, like and hanging on to cars?
Skitching, bro.
Because that's the
Skitching.
That's the single coolest thing that anyone's ever done in a
Right.
movie. Like I remember watching that and being like, if I could just do that, I think my life would be complete.
I meant to Google this because I wanted to see if there were actually any examples of kids trying this and getting hurt, like based on watching
gotta
this
be.
movie. There had to have been
had to
a
be
bunch,
lots,
right?
I mean, that was back before the internet, so no one talked about it.
I'm
Right.
gonna say my ass was pedaling a bike around town when I could have just been grabbing onto cars and just
And
riding
he
around.
looks so cool doing it when
Oh,
he
yeah.
switches cars at intersections.
Dude, he grabs
Oh, the
like
Jeep. He's like waves at the Jeep. He's
waves
like,
at
"What's
the
up?"
Jeep.
He hooks
holds
onto
onto
a
the cop car.
Cop car.
Ducks way down. I'm like, dude, you are amazing.
And it's
He
Huey
waves
Lewis.
at
Huey Lewis is going.
the song. So it's like,
mean,
I was gonna ask, to the room. I mean, this is just like total, half-ass commentary. Is this the best movie opening in history?
It's really good.
I mean, it maybe not, but I mean, it's definitely going in. The combination of you go into to Doc Brown's house and you see
Right.
the clocks, which are so like such foreshadowing and like how important time is.
The newscast says plutonium's been stolen. Like, there's like a little bit of a hint.
little clock with a dude hanging on the big hand.
That's
like
the
old-
real sneaky one.
Right.
though.
See,
I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get all these cool little things, yeah. And then all of a sudden, like Einstein's not been there, so his
That dog food, you're immediately just like, oh, that's the most disgusting thing ever.
And then Marty rolls in, right? He plays the thing, which is sort of fun and cool, and then immediately Doc Brown calls urgent, runs out, and he's on the skateboard.
Oh, and he says,
Power
I'm
love.
late for school. Boom, and then it hits, and you just go.
So for me, like I just think I look at for all the nitpicks you might have, and for all the times you might have seen it, seeing the opening 5 minutes, 6 minutes of that movie, I never get tired of it ever.
Yeah.
You can watch it over and over.
Well, and then the whole callback in number 2 when he's on the hoverboard, and you know they pretty much recreate the whole thing with the hoverboard, but then tweak it a little bit. Amazing, just really cool.
And I got to give Zemeckis props because 2 things. One, the callbacks, all the different callbacks. There's so many in this movie, and it's just I'm a sucker for a good callback. And the fact that like they do it multiple times in very clever ways throughout the sequels as well. But I have to give Zemeckis props because there was a guy that was one of the main producers on the film, and he wanted the title of the movie to be changed. He did not like Back to the Future. He said nobody wants to see a movie with the future in the title, and he thought it should be called Spaceman from Pluto.
I wonder how quickly that guy got fired after this.
Oh no! This is like he was the head of Universal Pictures, so
that actually makes sense.
This was not a fire. This was not a
Those guys
fireable
are
guy.
always so smart, though.
So what Zemeckis did is he wrote a memo and said, "Hey, thanks, Sid. Everybody got to laugh about your memo." Basically, like trying to make it sound like, oh, that was a joke. Like obviously, we wouldn't even think about doing this. And I guess the guy like never wanted to admit that was actually like
a serious.
He
thing.
was being serious
that's
and
amazing.
honest. So it was a joke memo. Awesome. And he also, instead of saying, I'm Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, he wanted him to say, I'm a spaceman from Pluto, like to tie it to the title.
Dude, what's funny about that, and I didn't really, I've heard that now that you say it, but I'd forgotten. I actually think the title is one, I mean, like it's a stroke of genius. Like
it's amazing.
It's stuck in your head because you constantly are trying to unravel what it means.
Right.
And then when you watch the movie, it makes sense, but it also still is like, wait, how do you go back to the future? You know, it's just so
such a perfect title.
I swear to God, I'm having deja vu. I think you specifically, Brad, have talked about that exact thing on the pod before.
I think you
have you not?
Yeah.
I might have.
Yeah.
I'm having
the
like
time machine back and listen.
Serious deja vu right now.
Maybe
I have no idea what episode
we're
it was.
120 something episodes deep. It's getting a little bit.
You said the part about he wanted to actually like tie it back to the title.
Hank,
of the movie.
Hank, look that up for us and let us know when it was.
Yeah, I know. But and then another thing, and this just goes with good pranks. And I don't know if you would get sued for doing this now, or if you could do it. I don't know. Do we know if was Michael J. Fox 18 at the time of this filming? He probably was.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
probably, yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
That's why Doc was losing interest.
When
When
they-
like send this guy back to the fucking future.
oh damn.
No.
When he's in the car with his mom. And she's talking about what she's doing, like, if anybody who drinks, and then so he takes it from her and he starts to take the swig. In rehearsals, they had used a bottle with water in it. Before that scene, they replaced it with actual alcohol. So he takes a big old swig, and so his spit take is like legit. It was legit when she starts to light up the cigarette. So I was like, that's kind of fun.
That's
Fun
awesome.
prank.
Yeah.
Get some real life acting out of your actors.
I mean, so the other thing, like we don't usually do this, but I feel the need in a movie like this. If you had to pick your top 3 favorite scenes, because we've talked a lot about the beginning so far, but there's just, I mean, you could probably name 10 where you're just like, these could all be candidates. If you got to pick 3, like just off the top of your head, where do you go?
I mean, number 1 for me has to be the chase around on the crappy skateboard with Biff first is chasing him around, and then they run into the manure truck. To me, is probably one of the most memorable scenes.
Well, and because it jumps into the cafe every once in a while, and like you hear the music from the cafe as they're going by, and like Lorraine's like saying all this, like she's just sweating
He's
for
a
him.
dream.
Yeah, and then like it comes back out. Oh man, and we haven't really talked about the score yet because
It's coming. Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure.
That's a great scene, of course. And of course, his dad knocking out Biff. Like I mean, just him getting laughed at, and just when you see that rage start to like build in him, they do a great close up as he starts to, and the fist starts to come together.
Yeah,
and he's just finally, he's like, I think I do this, and just wham, and that punch. It's quiet. He spins and drops.
It's perfectly executed acting, directing. Like,
and then they do the thing where we're at the dance where the guy butts in on the dance. And then that whole thing, the way it was orchestrated, and then like when he actually
when the Shermanator comes in and like tries to steal his girl.
It looks like the Shermanator pushes him away, and then Marty stands up real quick, and then he plays the guitar, and I liked that scene as well.
What is that dude doing? He's just like yeah. He's like waddling around with her. Like what kind of like clown cartoon character is this guy?
Well, he's the Shermanator.
I mean, so I might pick that one for my favorite scene, and the opening skateboard scene maybe in the competition. I mean, the whole sequence where they're trying to get back to the future at the end, right? The clock tower. I mean, the whole thing there, right, is so. And the thing I love about it is
that Doc miscalculated how long it would actually take because
the
alarm goes off, and if he would have went, the lightning bolt would have not been there yet.
Yeah,
exactly.
100%. Again, another one of the stupid nitpicks that my brain is thinking of as I'm watching this stupid movie again.
But I mean, there's no like silly villain trying to get in the way, right? It's like they're racing just against time, right? Yeah. Which is a fun element, right? Where like time is the adversary in the whole thing. Getting back through time is the adversary. Getting things to be on time is the adversary. So for me, right, there's a depth to, like the clocks and stuff, not that I think they're trying to be that philosophical, but time is more important than just time travel in this movie, right? Yeah. And it's the driver of a lot of and as you point out, right, it's not just like visiting dinosaurs, right? There's, for one of the first times meaningfully on film, although it happened in literature for many, centuries before this, the thought process about the way that like possible time travel affects, dimensionality and things is really like, is formidable in this movie in a way that I think is new and right changes the way that we do movies after that.
Well, yeah, and just he has a week to get his mom with his. And that's like, I mean, yeah, everything is about
He's disappearing
time.
in the photo, right?
Well, I mean, it's just a good thing that it went his older brother first, then his sister, then him. What if it started with him? Then we wouldn't have much of a movie.
Fucked. I love
it's such a weird but great concept. The picture that like it's like disappearing. Great. It's just so strange, but it also is great at the same time.
I loved the dad just like not being like this great dude like that you sort of hear at the beginning. He's just being a creeper in the tree and fucking falls. Like that shit is so funny to me.
Peeping Tom. Such a great. Well, and honestly, like honorable mention, but probably top 10 is him waking up and you realizing that it's his mom,
right?
And then her just subtly putting the moves on him and him so uncomfortable. It's so played so well all the way through the dinner scene.
I remember
so
one of my favorite lines from all time in this movie is when he's like, "Where are my pants? On my hope chest." Such a great line.
The hope chest part where she's like, "I'm hoping to bone you."
It's exactly
why I put him there.
Or even when he first like meets Doc and like the whole door open, and he closes it, and then like sticks the thing on his head, and
it's just one after another. That's so, and I think the way they bring the town is like such a character, and maybe less so than a lot of movies where like looms even more. But I think in a more fun way, the town feels like you're so excited just to see the pan of the town and the little things that they've changed.
Different iterations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's something I think that's cool about the trilogy, right? Is that like you get more and more of that throughout the trilogy, which I always think is like, that's one of my favorite parts of following the whole thing is like what happens, to the town over time.
I don't know how they avoided getting super cheesy like characters with because Doc Brown's going over the top the whole time, but it doesn't seem cheesy or lame,
right?
Like fucking the bully is like super over the top. Fucking Crispin Glover's like the king of fucking over the top. You know what I mean? Like they're all like kind of like cheesing it up, but it doesn't feel cheesy to me.
It works.
I'm not sure why.
Somehow. It is. Cool. It is weird.
Part of it is the time element. I mean, part of it is the era element, right? Because like. There's a little bit of you're taken to you're brought far enough out of the present to believe that people were a little bit cartoonish or something. Like, I mean, in the 50s, right? You think about the 50s, there was a cartoonish element to the perfectness of what it was like. And so I think, to me, that always felt normal because you're like, oh yeah, well you're in a there's
I guess you're right. I mean,
I don't know.
can kind of talk like a fucking weirdo because it's like back in the day, I guess people did talk
nobody
like
told
that.
people they shouldn't bully each other back then, so it's fine.
So it's weird that Christopher Lloyd is the one part of this movie who's like forever embraced it. Like they had a dumb cartoon, like Saturday morning cartoon, Back to the Future, and then they did, like I said, the Universal ride. He lent his voice and his character. He says he loves it. Crispin Glover states that he saw one movie, like he saw it once and has
Right.
never watched it again.
And he wasn't in the second one.
He
right?
gets kicked off the second one. It
Yeah.
just basically because they're like, you're a freak and you're crazy.
And they found a guy that looked like him and made him up to look like him.
Yeah, and just very
So
few
weird.
lines. They really there was more. They were going to do more with his dad, and then once Crispin Glover was gone, they didn't. And then Michael J. Fox, obviously, I mean, I don't know, just a few years ago, he did like a little thing where he came out on, I think, Jimmy Kimmel's show,
Right.
with Doc Brown and stuff. So I mean, they still, it seems like they still have a good relationship, which I think is awesome. The fact that they still. I mean, they understand how big this movie was and how much it means to people, which is
I
a great thing.
love when an actor embraces it and loves it and doesn't like, well, that was that thing, whatever, and like they act all cool and shit. I like when they get into it and totally love it.
Who played the girlfriend in the first one? Was it Elizabeth Shue?
No, she's in number
She's
2
in
and
the
3.
second one. So who's
Yeah.
in the first one?
The first one,
Somebody else.
I forgot what her name is, but her mom got cancer, and so she.
that what
stepped out.
happened?
She quit acting
Oh,
for a
okay,
long
so-
time.
And then his sister from the first one died of cancer before number 2.
God
Oh
damn.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
That sucks.
So that's why they don't have anything with her. They just mention her offhand in Back to the Future 2.
Got it.
Jesus.
But
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I was always curious about that with the actor, the actress, and the first actor, whatever the fuck you say.
well, and if we have any
Actor.
listeners who have not heard the story, that Eric Stoltz was the one. So Michael J. Fox was they wanted Michael J. Fox, but he was doing Family Ties at the time, and they were like, we don't know if he's going to be available, and his schedule is too crazy right now. So they start shooting with Eric Stoltz, and they shoot a good third of the movie.
And you can actually see it. Like
They have, if you go to
yeah.
YouTube, you can check it out. They have the scenes. You can see all just a bunch of scenes where it's like, it just looks weird. It
it's
looks
not
like
great.
he's like doing a parody or something. It's
Yeah.
like, and he just didn't have the comic timing. He didn't have the charm, and he didn't have the Michael J. Foxness. I mean, that's Michael J. Fox is something special.
I hate to say it. I think this movie's good enough. All the other players are good enough. The music's good enough. The special effects are good enough that it's probably a hit movie.
Even with Eric
Stoltz.
Stoltz.
Absolutely is.
We don't look at it now and think like, oh, he's doing a parody of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah,
He's just
that's
doing
true.
however he would have done it. You know what I mean?
I bet Eric Stoltz wonders that.
I bet he does.
I think it would have been a hit movie, but I don't think it would have been what it is.
I don't think so either.
Like,
I don't
I
think
think
it's
there's a
quite
level
the
it
same,
wouldn't have gotten to.
because I think Michael J. Fox is great, right? But
Well, he was a
weird.
superstar at the time. I mean,
Right.
he was the kid from Family Ties, and was like, absolute superstar.
I don't know.
you think he's like 5'4", like
I mean, I think that's an
$1.15.
overstatement.
Family Ties was one of the biggest TV shows
It was
on television.
It was huge. I'm not saying it wasn't.
with very limited amounts of stuff.
Totally agree, and I loved Family Ties.
one
But
of the
my
three
point
shows.
is though that like he was a big star. He was definitely really well known. But I mean, Stoltz was huge also at this time.
Oh, from Mask?
Wasn't he? Was this after? This was before Pretty in Pink, or this is after? Pretty in Pink. I think.
It wasn't Pretty in Pink. It was Some Kind of Wonderful.
Oh, Some Kind of Wonderful. Yeah.
That's true.
So I mean, but he's kind of in this mix. He's the one of the Brat Packers.
Yeah.
But my point is just, I think Michael J. Fox has a run that is, we forget how big some of this stuff was. So he does this and Teen Wolf in '85.
Yeah.
Right. Then
Which also has a very dangerous example to set for kids.
Van surfing.
But van surfing.
I love all
Michael
the
J.
car problems.
Fox is about that life, man.
Hell yeah.
Then he does The Secret of My Success in '87, which is a great movie, and also he's just kills in Bright Lights in Big City in '88.
What about
Family
the
Ties
doctor
still
one?
going. What's that?
What about the one where he plays a doctor?
Doc Hollywood.
Doc
That's
Hollywood.
that's later.
Is that later? I like
Casualties of War in '89, Back to the Future 2 and 3 in '89 and '90, Hardway in '91, Doc Hollywood in '91. So like, there's this run where he's just. I mean, I'm not saying he wouldn't have had it, but Back to the Future and Teen Wolf in the same
the
year,
same
followed
year?
up by the next 5 years.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, he just goes ozone.
There were some other interesting. I saw that there was a lot of other actors up for it. Like John Cusack was up for that role.
Too tall.
C. Thomas Howell, Johnny Depp, because that was back in like the 21 Jump Street days.
Oh, and
wasn't it?
either Gail or Zemeckis had a thing about like, I forgot that Johnny Depp even read lines for us. He's like, you must have not been that interesting.
Right. But like Ralph Macchio, Charlie Sheen, John Cryer, like everybody. Ben Stiller, Peter DeLuise, who he was, I think he's also 21 Jump Street, and Billy Zane, who ended up just getting one of
Biff's
Biff's thugs, henchman. And so he's like, dude, I went for the lead role, and now I'm just the dude that has no lines in the background.
It's interesting though, because like Brad was saying, there's only like fucking 8 channels with so many TV shows. So there's only so many jobs to go around. So I guess, like, you know, there's a movie getting made. Everybody in town's showing up to fucking try out for the part, I would think.
Well, that's when movies, I mean, it's like, oh, you're either TV or you're movie. Like,
Yes.
not a lot of crossover. And so for him to be
Movie
a huge
was a big
crossover
fucking
like
deal.
that, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one last little tiny thing is that I guess the first idea for the time machine, they were trying to figure out what should the time machine, what should it actually be, and they had thought about doing a refrigerator first, but they were worried that kids were going to get in refrigerators and die.
So they're like, fuck
Absolutely,
let's just
I
have them
think.
drag around behind cars on a skateboard.
Just do that instead, kids. Don't get in the refrigerator. Just grab onto the bumper and go.
Dude,
So
what kind of movie could you make with a fucking refrigerator as the time machine, though?
it seems like it would be so.
Or like a phone booth, right?
Have you
Like,
ever-
that'd be so stupid? Oh, wait.
Have you ever read? Have you guys read or seen one of the versions of It Has It, where the freaking the evil clown makes the kid get inside the fucking the refrigerator that's like in the dump? You don't remember that? Oh, it's fucking.
It's a scary movie.
I know
terrifying.
refrigerators can save you from a nuclear bomb.
Right. Indiana Jones taught us that.
I'm going to see the new one. I want to
I
see
know,
it.
me
I'm going to
too.
see it, even though the fourth one was absolute dog.
So you
shit.
just have to get inside your Yeti cooler if there's a nuclear war.
That's what according to Indiana Jones.
This is sponsored by Yeti. If you're listening.
Let's get sponsored.
Yeah, why not?
Somebody reach out.
All right, folks, we are going to move on to our next segment. So don't you go anywhere, and if you do, just time travel
Don't
right
nobody
back.
go nowhere.
Don't nobody go nowhere. All right.
Join hosts Dave Houghton and Sarah Ray Talley as they examine the less glamorous side of sports with their podcast, In a Pickle. Follow IAP Radio on social media by going to IAPradio.com. In a Pickle is now part of the Den Network. For more information, go to IAPradio.com.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's Shag Snack Body Bag.
It's like fuck or marry your mom. It's Shag Snack Body Bag. Right?
He's staring straight at Scotch, and it's just like, why did you do that, Scotch? Why did you do that? It's all right. We got to real quick talk about, the fact that you just had a huge gig.
We did.
It's,
Actually,
a
when
couple weeks ago.
when you started the show, I had you turn down my overall volume because my ears are just exploded from the other night because we have in-ear monitors, and it was just fucking loud as shit on stage. But it was great. We had a fantastic show, and
Full house at Dying
Was it
Breed.
sell
Dying
out, like
Breed.
door sold out and everything?
Yeah, so it was over 500 people, 500 plus. However many, we had a bunch of comps and people in. So crazy time, so much fun, and we're hopefully going to do it again coming up soon. So maybe even in October, we're talking about.
Love it.
So
It was really fun.
So if you all missed it, just trust me, you don't want to miss. They put on a hell of a show. It was a blast. People were dancing. People were enjoying the great beers at Dying Breed. And it just has a fun feel to it because you're kind of right there. The stage is in front, and it kind of like just goes back like you're at like a little small venue in like the city or something like that. It just kind of feels like one of those like really intimate, fun shows where you're right there at the stage.
You know, anybody who doesn't know who we are or hasn't seen one of our shows, I did mention this earlier. You know, we play our original stuff. You know, because there's a lot of people there to see. You know what we've done, but then the second half is like just a fucking party and just covers.
Tell them the 3-song.
And so
Yeah.
So how many bands do you know of that will basically have a 13-year-old who's our singer's daughter come out and sing Sia Chandelier?
An amazing version of it.
Right. She killed it. She was amazing. And then we follow that with Sober by Tool, going straight into Boot Scoot Boogie by Brooks and Dunn. And then we went into freaking Uptown Funk. So it's just like, it's just fun. It was great. People had a fucking great time, and so it was a lot of fun. So.
And just remember, this isn't just like some dudes in their garage that are like, hey, maybe we can play these songs and doing them poorly. They do every song. They do it as legitimate as possible, and they're all talented musicians who have been playing music for
Just say it.
70 years
Yeah.
Asshole.
each.
Scott invented the bass drum.
Oh, you almost got a spit take out of him. That would have been nice.
That was close.
All right, so folks, we are on to Shag Snag Body Bag for the movie Back to the Future. And so if we're going to be shagging things, this is something that you're like, I really love this in the moment, and it's just something that made me feel really good. Got a little aggressive with it. So what do you think? Who's shagging? What are you shagging?
I'm shagging Marty's truck.
Oh God, that truck.
So I loved that truck. Like I saw that truck and I was like, yep, that's the coolest thing you could ever own, especially if you could throw a sleeping bag in it and go with your girlfriend to the lake. And so this is, I probably saw that truck for the first time in, let's go with like 1988 at the latest. 16 years later, as a full grown adult with children, I moved to Michigan, had enough money to like buy a real vehicle, and chose instead to buy like a 10-year-old Toyota and learn to drive stick just so I could get a truck kind of like Marty's.
You got a truck like Marty's?
Like a lifted Toyota with like the stupid lights.
I never got to see this.
It was my first like
That's so dope.
Like kind of semi-adult car purchase, and I was like, yeah, I want a 10-year-old crappy Toyota that is like just, I don't even know how to drive a stick shift, but it looked like Marty's, so I bought it.
Did it have those light covers on it, the KC lights or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Drove it around in the snow of Michigan for 3 years, almost crashing, just because I was like, yeah, I look like
It didn't have 4-wheel drive?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, okay,
Yeah, in Michigan, it doesn't matter.
Check out that 4x4. So I am I wrong when I look at that car? Even I said it today in my living room as I was watching this. I was like, that truck still looks kind of hot for being a mid 80s. Like it looks almost kind of modern, like has some sleek to it, which most trucks back then did not have whatsoever. They were very blocky.
It was a great truck.
I'd drive that truck. I'd drive that truck right now.
No, it's definitely a thing. And if you look at like the new Tacomas with the TRD like packages on them, the people are putting lift kits on them and fucking the lights and the whole deal, dude. It's still a thing.
Yeah. There you go. And that's a great shag. Appreciate that. Zach. Just say it.
I don't want to say it, Brad.
You're like, let me think of a different sentence.
No, I really, 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 and I can't say it enough. Fucking Huey Lewis is so dope.
Yeah.
The news or the sports album is just front to back, just banger after banger after banger. I think somebody was saying that like the whole intro with Power of Love and he's fucking skitching on the skateboard and all that is just, it's fucking cool. And you think like, I mean, I don't know. I look at it now and I don't think like Marty McFly like looks super cool, but like at the time I was like, he's like, that's like the epitome of cool is like the whole thing.
Right.
And all the way through where like the girlfriend, he's talking to the girlfriend, she comes back, gives him the number, and it's like, I love you, the number and whatever.
And she leans down and kisses him.
His life's going fucking
and
great.
it immediately jumps back into Power of Love.
Yeah.
So
like,
good.
That's the power.
Like it
love.
just, yeah.
The synths, just everything. I think it's great. I'm a big Huey Lewis guy. I saw him at the celebrity golf tournament. Fucking weird looking dude. I didn't realize. I thought he would look different than he did. But anyways,
we should have talked about it ahead of time and put out that how bad can we ruin this movie with different songs, because man, there's a lot, like at different scenes you could play some really just corny stuff, and Huey Lewis is just that right 80s band for the job.
Yeah.
agreed.
I have more to say about that in a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to jump into the shag. It's kind of an obvious one for me. Leah Thompson.
Yeah,
She was my everything in the 80s.
she was my
I hear you.
She was my, I mean, top of the pyramid, fucking number one crush. Dude, Space Camp was a movie.
Oh yeah.
She was so cute in that. Actually, Kelly Preston was, I think, in that as well.
She was.
And so, Space Camp, cheesy movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. And then I literally watched Howard the Duck because she was in it. And that movie's awful.
Well, how are we not mentioning that she was full frontal in All the Right Moves?
I was going to mention that because I didn't know that at the time.
Doesn't she have sex with a duck though?
In Howard the Duck,
Howard the
yes.
Yeah. Okay. We don't want to skip over that either.
It's NC-17.
So
she got duck fucked.
I didn't know about all the right moves back in the day. Like I learned about that much later. If I would known back when I was at my formative years, I'd be out of cum.
You would have exploded. You'd have spent it all.
Yeah.
And just been
At this point,
You'd have retired it at about 16.
Yeah, that's true though. They say like women have like a certain amount of eggs for like their whole life. Like
Right.
you only have a certain amount of cum.
yeah, but if I knew about Leah Thompson and all the right moves being full
You would have
frontal
ran through
in the
all
80s,
that shit.
And she's beautiful in that too.
yeah,
like it's
fantastic.
just it's fire all the way around. I'm with you. I mean, she's
And I actually
gorgeous in this.
I saw her in person, but much later when I was living in LA, and I was on a hike, and she was just randomly walking down the hike.
Did you lose it? Did you
I
fall
didn't.
down the
I didn't
mountain?
say shit, and I just walked past her. I was
Tripped and fell.
Shit, that was Leah Thompson. Oh, shit.
You should have said something.
I
to her.
know, but I couldn't.
You know what I thought of this last time. Maybe I should save this for alternates early and ending. But I felt like the scene at the dinner table where she puts her hand on his leg was the precursor to
Wedding Crashers.
Under the table.
Somebody watched
Little
that and was
shenanigans.
like, he's like, I'm gonna take this up another level.
Yeah.
I love that, and it's like you should have said something because women love being alone on a hike in the woods and just random men coming up
Yeah,
and
totally.
fucking talking.
She would have been super flattered.
Right.
All right, my shag is in I got chills from this, and this is truth. So there's been a lot of shitty spin-offs of Back to the Future. Like I said, the cartoon, there was some really early Nintendo games that were absolute dog shit. Like they basically just had some other game and just kind of threw like a Back to the Future like shine over it, and it didn't make any sense. But in the early 2010s, there was a game done by Telltale Games, Back to the Future, the video game.
I've heard about that.
Written, and the story was assisted by Bob Gale, and it has all the music. It has Christopher Lloyd's voice. They did a special edition in 2015 where they actually have Biff Tannen's voice, so he came back. But here's the thing: the star of that thing is a kid named AJ Locascio. AJ Locascio does the voice for Marty McFly. And it is so spot on. It's like scary. And again, you were talking about deja vu earlier. I feel like I've talked about this on the pod before.
Well, is Telltale Games? Those aren't really video games, right?
They're like story
comics.
games, kinda.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like an interactive
Comic.
puzzle game where you kind of
but you're not like controlling the character. Really.
This one's more similar to like some of the old like Lucasfilms game, like Maniac Mansion, where it's like you have to solve a puzzle. Like I need to
Right.
take this object and this object, put them
Like
together.
Myst.
It's
And
almost like a
you
choose your own
converse.
adventure, like the old
Kind of.
books, kind of in a way too.
Kind of.
Exactly.
I see that.
But I will say the opening, because they did it in episodes. It was like 5 episodes, and the first episode kind of recreates the Twin Pines Mall scene, and it's doing it like spot on for a second, and it's like right word for word, and then all of a sudden it starts to venture, and Doc starts disappearing. He goes, "I've done something terribly wrong,"
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're like,
Marty!
and you're like, oh shit! Like I got chills, like because it's so true to the movie with the music, with everything about it. So, the Back to the Future video game, it's available like on the Switch, like on PlayStation, any of those devices, computers. It's probably hella cheap right now.
Right.
If you have any love for Back to the Future, it is worth playing at least the first couple episodes because it goes back to the 1930s. And it recreates some of the same beats that you love from the movies.
And
so.
somebody showed, like, I don't know if it was you or your brother or Keith or somebody, like, actually, like, played a clip of the actor who played Marty McFly, and that voice acting is really, really
It's
you think it's Michael
tremendous.
J. Fox.
Yeah,
It's really,
it is legit. So I'm shagging the Back to the Future video game. What are you snagging, Zach?
I am snagging, and we touched it earlier, and it's sort of generic, but I really like it, and they've done it a bunch of times since then. I love what you do in the past is going to affect what happens in the future, right? I mean, it's like inherent to these things, but like, I think that this was the first time that I saw it where I was like, oh, that's really cool, and they do it over and over throughout the 3 movies. And I just, the concept of it is really wild, and you can really, really get into it, and like the whole like concept of the butterfly effect and all of that shit is just fucking cool, man. Makes me love. I mean, time manipulation in a movie is like one of my favorite story devices ever.
And they
for
do
sure.
a pretty good job of the rules here, right?
Yeah.
There's not, I think some films really screw that up or just make ambiguous choices without being intentional about the ambiguity. And this one, I think, that you can always criticize, right? Like,
Yeah.
because there's not enough time to go into the like full logical consequences, but they do a pretty good job both being simple but like wide-reaching and interesting.
Well, just the simple change from Twin Pine Mall to Lone Pine.
Exactly.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's something that I know I never saw the first dozen times I saw the movie. And then finally one, I was like, holy shit, there's only one pine now. And he, because you don't really, I honestly, on this last watch, was the first time I heard the farmer guy say, "My pine, you ran over my pine." I'd never noticed that before, ever. But I knew about him
There's
running
a lot
over
of
the
little
pine.
things like that.
Yeah.
You know, I also like one part that kind of fucked me up when you guys mentioned it earlier. You said that there was like a dock, like. Actually, I'm gonna talk about that later. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
On that same note, like I've seen this movie I don't know how many times. Probably it might be the movie I've seen the most in my life. But we had the subtitles on when we were watching it today. And when he's talking about the DeLorean the first time, Marty sees it and he's like, "Is that a DeLorean?" He's like, "Hold on, no." And then it keeps talking. And then he starts to say, "Is that a Devo?" He's talking about the suit. Like, is that a Devo suit?
Okay.
And Doc stops him. But in the subtitles, you can't really tell what he says when he says it. But on the subtitles, it says, "Is that a Devo?" And then like it's like ... So I was like, oh, he's talking about Devo because it looks like the Devo suits that they wore in their Whip It video.
Right.
Nate, snag.
I mean, it's hard to imagine snagging anything other than Marty McFly, man, with Michael J. Fox. I mean, I agree with the earlier take that this is still a hit movie even with Eric Stoltz, but he's so good, not just in terms of being sort of charming and charismatic in the delivery, but something I think that you can't overestimate with respect to some of what we talked about earlier, which is there's some characters really hamming it up, right? There's some characters really going full out. The physical acting for here, which is something that you don't see in a lot of the other roles that he has. I mean, you know, I guess you know, Teen Wolf, okay, but after this in his career, it's not like there's like tons of huge physical acting, you know, demands, and certainly Family Ties didn't have that. The physical comedy that he displays in this movie is so important for the movie and so perfectly done by him. And not just in the sort of like over the top stuff where he's in the manure chase, which is great, but like even sort of the, you know, how dramatically he pops up out of his seat in the diner when Biff hops up, right? It's like there's these little kind of subtle things that match the what could be really overpowering, you know, physical acting of some of the other characters that make this whole thing work for me.
Hey, at 5'4", he actually convinces you that he's ready to swing on Biff in the cafeteria.
He totally does.
He matches the physicalness in a weird way, even though he's a very small person.
Exactly.
It's kind of wild.
So anyway, I think Michael J. Fox is pure gold. He's a national treasure.
I love when he's in the barn and like then he falls backwards and like just like simple
Great little
pratfall.
pratfall.
And his like the hood comes down on his face, and it's just like it's all so well done that you like see it and you don't see it at the same time.
I like how aggressively he shifts when he's getting chased by the Libyans. Like he just a lot of aggressive shifting at weird times. Like
well,
you know,
there's even the last when he's running up down the street to do the lightning, whatever. Like he hits those pedals and the shifting, like his.
I think he goes through like 7 gears.
He's he's got the pedal down. All of a sudden he slams the pedal down even harder.
No, that's actually a foot actor that does that stuff. It's a foot double.
All right, Scotch, what you got snagged?
So if I'm gonna snag something, I gotta snag Alan Silvestri and the score and it's just a question I wanted to bring up to you guys is if you combine the music score with the Huey Lewis music, is this like an all-timer?
I think so.
I've listened to the soundtrack probably more than any other movie soundtrack I ever had. But again, it's all from my love for the movie, but it's such a great soundtrack that you know the beats and that's what a good soundtrack can do. It's like where it reminds you of the beats of the movie.
Right.
I would be listening to it and in my head like just thinking I could see the movie as I'm watching it.
Or like a little
listening to it.
reveal will happen. It's like ding, like little weird little thing happens in the background, like these little small
subtle
sound effects. Yeah,
Yes.
so good. But yeah, then you combine it with these amazing
I was just
songs.
going to say, I mean, it's rare for a movie to have both a great score and a great soundtrack at this level.
Right, because obviously you got John Williams in Star Wars. Okay, amazing soundtrack. But I'm saying you add in the music. So like Top Gun is another one where it's an amazing soundtrack, but with Kenny Loggins, added to it. So that would kind of be in the conversation of a great combo
score soundtrack.
So,
But I mean, even with the issues that you have with the Johnny B. Good scene, like, it's still pretty fucking cool. And at the time, you thought it was really cool when you were young, right? Yeah, exactly.
All right, my snag, and I kind of set myself for last here, is it's just all the joy that this franchise has brought me. Because, like I said, my family, we consider this like our movie. And I'm talking about like growing up with my brother and my parents, and it's just like my mom every year at Christmas when she's doing like her baking, like her Christmas baking, like for like cookies and things like that, she will watch that trilogy probably a good 3 or 4 times. Like it's in rotation through December. If I stop by my mom's house, she's probably watching one of the 3 movies.
So is your take that this is a Christmas movie? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, completely. Completely Christmas.
I totally agree with that.
I love that.
But no, this is her Christmas movie, which is awesome because, like, I mean, you ask my mom what her Christmas movie is, she's going to say Back to the Future. It has nothing to do with it being a Christmas movie. It's just what she watches, her comfort while during the holidays. So, I love this movie with a passion. It brings out just the best emotions in me, and there's nothing that I can think about that pisses me off about it. And even like nitpicking it is fun because it's just there's so many little things, and you can do that with any movie. But this movie has given me a ton of joy, and I'm happy for that. So thank you, Zemeckis, at all who created this thing. Now, body bag. I just want to really quick body bag all the actually types when it comes to like a good time travel movie, because I do like a good time travel movie. We're going to talk about that next week, and time travel is a fun concept. But just shut the fuck up. Like, inconsistencies are part of the fun. Like, I don't care.
Brad,
it's like, well, this or this.
You are the ultimate fucking nitpicker about shit like this. I love that you're like, don't talk about Back to the Future.
Not when it comes to time travel. Time travel, like, let's just let time travel, like, because otherwise people won't make time travel
for no reason at all.
People won't make time travel movies if they're always getting ripped apart. So let's just let them happen.
Funny, dude.
Unbelievable.
That's just my take, and that's how I feel about this. So,
so kind of off that, what I'm going to do is talk about a little something. It's a term called refrigerator logic. And so refrigerator logic is a term that a lot of people say that Alfred Hitchcock kind of coined. And what it is like you go to see a movie and then you go home at night, you get up in the middle of the night. And this was actually mentioned in the Kevin Pollak book. He mentions how they talk about this a little bit too, How I Slept My Way to the Middle, which is a great audiobook. If you've listened to our pod, you've heard me say it like 15 times now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. But refrigerator logic is like you get up in the middle of the night, you're going to make a snack, you go to the refrigerator, and all of a sudden, like, wait a minute. And you think about the movie, and something like just doesn't make sense. And like I said, watching this now as an adult, you see a lot of this shit. You're like, wait, what about this? And then you start nitpicking this stuff. And I honestly am body bagging the fact that I fucking have to have this thought as I'm watching this dozenth time or whatever I'm watching it. And like, I wish I can just go back and just not think about all the little things that don't make sense anymore. Like, so when he first goes back in time and he says plutonium low and the car won't start, he has to push it. Well, how'd they get it to get him to go up to 88 down the road later to reach the lightning?
They pushed it with the train.
No. He's talking about just in the first part, because he's trying to start it. It's going like maybe he was also out of gas.
I don't know. So those are the things that you think about now that I wish I didn't have to. So I'm kind of like body bagging myself, not having to think about.
It's been
this
a while
shit.
since one of us body bagged ourselves.
I know.
I like that.
So
I like that.
And or the little things like another one I mentioned was like, okay, Lorraine, she likes the name Marty. Right after the dance or whatever. Okay, she likes the name Marty so much. They had a son before they had Marty. Why didn't they name him Marty if they liked it so much?
There was some family tradition that they had to name the first son.
But these are the stupid things
Dave,
you think about, and so
you go to
I just wish I didn't have to. So anyway, there you go.
So their second choice. There was some other guy, Dave, later on in college that was super cool.
Yeah.
So I guess you could body bag like Lorraine, who's this bad girl chick, like freaking getting with and staying with the nice guy. That shit doesn't happen. All right, moving on. My body bag is without a doubt, and we talked about it. We touched on it hard earlier, and I had a hard time not talking about it. Skitching, dude. So
Sketchy.
there is nothing cooler than hanging onto the back of a car and watching somebody sketch, and they're hella good at skateboarding and they're fucking doing all these tricks and they're going hella fast. I remember I was probably 19. I think I was a freshman in college. My girlfriend, now my wife, had an old Camry, and I was skateboarding in front of my parents' house, and she was going somewhere, going to work or something. And she like kind of drove up next to me, said goodbye. And then I went around and grabbed the back of her car, and I'm holding on, and she's going, I don't know how fast she was going. Maybe 20, maybe 25. I don't know. And I'm holding on and I'm doing great. And I'm like, faster, faster. And she sort of hits the gas to like speed up. And I immediately get a speed wobble. And I fell so fucking hard.
Oh my God, dude.
Shorts, t-shirt.
Oh, no.
I fucking lost all the skin off of this arm, all the skin off of this arm. Both knees were completely shredded. My fucking calves were shredded. I have to go back into my parents' house like, Mom, fucking just bleeding everywhere, dude. And
This is the story how his wife went into nursing.
yeah, dude, just absolutely destroyed myself for a long time. Like I remember having these like just huge scabs up my whole arms, and freaking. I always attribute that to like my wife's love of picking scabs, because she freaking picked those scabs for years. I feel like, but anyways, dude, kids,
Don't sketch.
don't hang on to the back of cars.
Or do it at a reasonable speed.
I mean, just don't even do it. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Especially if you're not that good at skating like I am.
Is there anything worse than that speed wobble feeling though, where it's just like all of a sudden you're like,
Your stomach immediately falls out of your asshole. You're like, oh shit, boom. Oh, dude. I fell so hard on the ass. Oh, it's terrible.
oh man,
Anyways,
Nate,
that's my body bag.
It's like Lieutenant Dan's
So
story.
there's one scene in this where I think the overacting hurts the scene, and it's early. So I think that the scene between Marty's dad and Biff, when he comes home and the truck's wrecked, it's like one of this. It's not even. It's like everything. It's the acting. It's the writing. It's like you see Crispin Glover being too Crispin Glover, like he's at 11 and he needs to be at like a 9 in that scene, and Biff is sort of like, I don't know. There's something about it that I, watching it this time especially, I was like, this doesn't set it up properly, because they seem too cartoonish there. And I think if you can make it just like slightly more relatable in that scene, everything else plays better. Like, because it's almost like, I think it's almost like neither of them grows up at all, and they get actually even like more immature and sort of like silly as they get older in that version of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that. Like, I want to see them sort of like be the adult versions of themselves, even if it's still pretty terrible.
Biff does have some great lines in that scene though. I have your car towed all the way over here, and all you have for me is a light beer.
Oh no, there's some great. I mean, you know,
Who's gonna pay for this? I spilled beer all over me when that guy hit me, or when that girl hit me.
This is a nip. I mean, like most of it's still gold, but there's something about the like early part of that scene, like, you know, I don't know, George is just like crazy, just freaking out, like losing it, you know. I don't know, Biff.
He's like shining.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, that's my.
Get your damn hands off of her.
Anyway,
Well, the funny thing is when you see Tom Wilson in interviews, he's a very like mild mannered, like very like, I'm not gonna say effeminate, but he's very like not Biff at all. Like, he's very much an actor and just seems very quiet and calm as a real person. So
Look up his, he does almost like stand up with a guitar. He has like a whole like comedy routine that he does around people asking him about Biff and to do Biff, and like his whole life revolves around fucking Biff. It's pretty funny.
they said he used to have a little card he would give people as basically like frequent asked questions. Like, basically he's had so many people asking questions that he has a whole list of things that he just hands it to him. He's like, hey, why don't you
That's
check this out
basically the
first?
whole bit of his song. Is like, I get the same 10 questions every day.
All right, we're gonna be back with the next segment.
Crackle, Pluto, HBO, find anime on Crunchyroll, Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Disney, Sling TV, Showtime, Fubo. What the fuck is Fubo? I'm sure it'll cause a sensation. It's our streaming recommendation.
All right, it's our time where we're going to tell you a movie that this movie makes us think about. Something that's related. Maybe it's not related. Maybe just, whatever. So I'm going to start this off just because I don't want it to get stolen. And, time travel or playing with time, I like a lot of those movies, and I've seen quite a few of them, and I really enjoy most of them. So I'm going to go ahead and say one of my movies that is, it's been recommended here before, Edge of Tomorrow, Tom Cruise, and Emily Blunt. And they are not exactly time travelers, but they definitely have some manipulation of time, and it turns into a crazy alien war scene, and it's a badass movie.
Definitely
If you've not checked it out.
On a list of most surprising movie that I went into really knowing nothing, kind of just bored on a Saturday or whatever, and at the end of it, I was like, holy shit, this movie's amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was super entertaining, super fun.
Surprise hit, and supposedly they have a second one coming out, but I don't know.
I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah, who knows? All right, Nate, what you got?
So,
Oh, and I'm sorry, that's on Max. It is now Max.
Cinemax.
It's not HBO
It's on
Max. Cinemax. Skinemax.
Okay, cool, great.
You got to go in the Skinemax section for it. And that's where you find it. Nate, what you got?
give me a quick cut pause here.
Scotch, what you got?
I'm not going to go with the time travel theme on this one. I'm going to go with Michael J. Fox. If you like Michael J. Fox, which if you don't in this movie, then what the hell's wrong with you? Because he's amazing.
I would just be surprised if you got through the pod this far and we're like, man, I still hate Michael J. Fox. That'd just be weird.
No.
I don't know what I think about you.
I love this movie. It's super fun. Doc Hollywood. And
who's his co-star in that?
So the girl, I'm blanking on her name, was in Tommy Boy. Was Tommy Boy's love interest?
Yes.
So she's in it, and just a bunch of other actors that you've seen in a bunch of stuff. And a really cute movie. He ends up he's heading to Beverly Hills to be a plastic surgeon. Ends up crashing into a fence and ends up having to work off his time in this small little town, and hijinks and shenanigans ensue. And it's also on the Max.
So stupid. Whatever.
So I know that for a lot of our listeners, I stand as kind of a rom-com beacon in the night. And I feel like
That's exactly what I think.
/ sci-fi legend.
yeah. So I feel like people are gonna, the obvious thing to do here is to recommend About Time, which I've talked about on this movie before.
Is that the one where Keanu Reeves gets the letters in the mailbox?
Yeah, that's the lake house. And then, so in About Time, oh damn, I didn't even think about the fact that, in About Time, which is a really, really great movie, Rachel McAdams and some other dude with red hair kind of do this time travel thing, and you should definitely watch that. But what I'm going to do is follow Scotty over there and say you really do need to follow the Fox train.
Okay. I'm interested to see, because I had a second
And
choice
I'm going to
here.
jump just a couple of years ahead beyond Doc Hollywood, and I'm going to say that this real sleeper, if you haven't seen it, you have to watch, which is For Love or Money.
Okay.
Where he's like a concierge at a hotel, and that part of it's super fun. He does these cool concierge things, and then he ends up dating Gabrielle Anwar.
Good for him.
Very cute.
So what kind of cool concierge things can a concierge do?
Like one of my favorite moves in the movie, right, is he goes and he hooks this dude up. Like this husband needs to get a gift for his wife, and so he kind of hooks him up with a watch, and does his concierge thing, and the guy is tries to tip him, but he doesn't really know what he's supposed to be doing, and he's like, just hold on to your money, don't confuse yourself with these small sums, just see if I'm worth it, and then if I am at the end, give me write me a check so big that it feels like you're passing a gallstone or something like that. And it's such a great line, but there's this he has that swagger of a killer concierge.
Okay.
So it has that fun element, the hotel element of it. Kind of feels a little bit like in the hotel from Home Alone 2 or something. You just have that. In fact, it might be set in basically the same one. So anyway,
Love that. We're romanticizing concierges.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, serious question: is there concierge school, or is this just like people that are just good hooking people up? Like they were the dude. I can get you whatever you need, like in high school. But like, oh, you need to get some heroin. I can.
He was like the drug dealer in high school that figured out how to like get tickets to operas and stuff.
It's crazy. I've never seen that movie, but I remember seeing something, and it might have been like on Entertainment Tonight or something, or one of those shows back in the day. And I remember hearing that they were going to call that movie The Concierge. But then they realized that nobody knows what the fuck a concierge is, or a lot of people didn't. And so they ended up changing it For the Love of Money.
Instead, they call it Spaceman from Apollo.
I would have
The
been
guy that gets you stuff.
from Pluto.
guy that gets you stuff. I would have been a concierge, but I don't think I could hack it.
Yeah.
It's not my gig, you know what I mean?
Well,
Instead, I had to be half a cop. So anyway, that's the bad news is that on my Just Watch app, it's literally available nowhere in no format. So good
nice
luck watching it.
recommendation.
All right, check YouTube.
It's the only place you can find it is in Nate's DVD selection that he sold a couple of weeks
Actually, I think I still kind
Okay, I have 3. The first one.
Wait, what?
I've got 3 streaming recommendations. Am I allowed?
You know that this category calls for only one.
No, there's 3. So these will all make sense.
Back to the Future 1.
I love time travel movies and the time travel device. So I'm gonna go 2 movies that are both really good. They're both available on Tubi.
All right.
If anybody's Tubiing out there, you can Tubi up Looper, starring Bruce Willis, and 12 Monkeys, starring Bruce Willis. Both have really cool, really trippy stories, really good special effects. I really like both those movies. So you should check both of them out. Not really in the same vein as Back to the Future or like tone as Back to the Future, but very cool. The last one is one that I started to watch. It's a TV series that we're not quite caught up on yet. I think we still are like a season behind, but there's a bunch of seasons, and my wife and I started watching this show, and it's Outlander on Stars.
Oh, yep.
Great movie to watch with your wife. Very like lots of sex scenes. Like there's some insane like. It goes off the rail. Like at the end of the first season, it goes off the rails so spectacularly and amazing to where like you have to keep watching because it's just like, what the fuck is happening? But it's basically this woman who is a nurse in World War II and somehow figures out a way to get into this like old like witch circle in the woods in Scotland and goes back to like the Scottish fighting the when the English are trying to take over Scotland,
Like Braveheart days.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really good. Honestly, it's really good. Some of it's really tough to watch. Like it gets super heavy. Some of it's super light. Very sexy show.
Based
Check
on a
it
bunch
out.
of books that my
Yep.
wife has read, and
It's on Stars.
she liked the show.
Yeah, it's very good. So check it out.
3 recommendations. That's crazy.
Sorry, dude. I'm fucking full of information over here.
No jet wash for Maverick, Meg still on that goose stick. Iceberg list Titanic, Leo's drawing that nude shit. Jim fucks Nadia like we all thought he should. Ricky and Doughboy get the fuck out the hood. Luke hooks up with Leia just like he's intending. It's time for a reshelf and alternate endings.
All right, folks, we're on to reshelf and alternate endings. So we can either, choose a new style for this movie, or we can just change the ending however we want. And we already kind of mentioned it. And, you could obviously ruin this movie really quick. Like if all of a sudden Marty just like, damn, my mom's kind of hot. And like, she's actually kind of cool. She likes drinking. She likes smoke. God, what am I doing? Like, maybe he accidentally, just kind of, the engine didn't start. Sorry, Doc.
But if you go by Back to the Future rules, if he bangs her mom, he would have disappeared as soon as he came.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious ending.
Talk about a
If he's
fucking great
just-
orgasm.
They go to like a
he
very
just fucking comes and disappears.
they go to a very heavy like sex scene, and then all of a sudden Ricey blows his load like he just That is damn.
Yep.
So I think that like you could reshelf this movie into a like dark thriller pretty easily. I think that there's like that foreshadowing at the very beginning of the movie. I've been thinking about it since y'all mentioned it. That there's like a little thing with like a little guy hanging on the clock arm in Doc's office, right? So obviously that's probably like just kind of their clever foreshadowing. But to me, that says that like Doc's already played this scenario out like a lot of times, right? I mean, if he has a time machine, he could have possibly done this a million times, just trying to find the right combination of shit. So, I mean, you could do like where, you know, it kind of plays out, and then you sort of, something happens to where you sort of start to discover like this sinister side.
Like Doc is actually trying to get Marty to erase himself or something.
Exactly.
Like
He has some sort of nefarious, like something that he's like doing this over and over to try and make something happen for himself.
And well, yeah, Doc is now. Why does he have a mansion and all this money for equipment? He's just been slowly like trying to build himself up, so he's becoming 100%. Like more famous and more. Yeah,
I kind of liked it. I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
and then you find out that he's like not as friendly, cool old guy as you thought. He doesn't have to be like a pedophile or anything super creepy, but he's just like super like, you know, kind of evil. And you find out like some terrible shit that he's done in the past that to like give himself some comeuppance in the future. You know.
Well, there's also an alternate ending that we didn't talk about as far as when those Libyans crashed into the photo booth and their van just flips over. I'm not assuming that anybody died in that accident. They still have an AK-47 and an RPG. They basically, like, Marty shows up again instantly. Did they just like lay there and just like, were they knocked unconscious? Did they die? Like, I mean, is that what we're assuming? Because it's a terrible ending if all of a sudden they come walking back to the RPG and he's having the loving moment, like Doc shows off the bulletproof vest. And
that's right.
RPG, boom!
I almost like the alternate universe where Doc is like they're fucking actors that he has hired to do
just
this because it's like
Marty.
all part of like Doc's plan, you know?
Okay.
So I like the idea of taking, like pushing it just one step further than it goes, which is to make it a little bit dark. So Marty's like psyched. He goes into the house and, you know, everything's sort of, you know, his parents are way different. His brother's way different. And you kind of get this air of like superiority from him now. I want to see George be just a real dick to Biff. So like, instead of him being kind of like, now Biff, you know, kind of mild mannered.
Don't make me punch you again.
I want him to go up and like be like, hey Biff, what's that on your shoe? And then just fucking whack him upside the chin.
Right.
Just be like, I told you to wax that car. You're gonna wax it again, aren't you, Biff? And kicks him in the ass.
Starts throwing racial slurs at him and shit.
Just real like raw. And all of a sudden Marty's like, oh shit, like
what have I done?
What have I done?
Created a monster.
And he just goes for the time machine again to go back and just
he needs to fix things.
And he goes and bangs his mom and then disappears.
Oh man,
I love it.
Well, I mean, there's also one other aspect that could happen.
Yeah, the Libyans get out of their van.
They fly over.
They fly over there. Don't need weapons at all. Doc's all stoked, like, hey, I got a bulletproof vest. And they're like, I'll just eat your neck.
Oh, they're vampires? I forgot all about this shit. We didn't do it last week, so I forgot all about it.
Back to the future till dawn.
Back to the future till dawn.
Shit.
You think the Libyans would be the vampires?
Obviously.
I think it's definitely Doc. And that's like part of the fact that he's been going back and forth and back and forth. And he actually became a vampire because he went back to like fucking Interview with the Vampire time and like got bit back then and then came back.
It also makes a lot of sense because he's kind of a night owl.
Exactly.
Right?
You know?
He like, he's all, you know, come hang out at 1:15. Yep. What, you didn't fall asleep, did you?
Super pale.
I'm a vampire.
Yep.
Oh man, I like that better.
Can you imagine telling your parents, "Hey, you know that 60-year-old guy I've been hanging out with? He wants me to meet him at the mall at 1:15 in the morning." So
he's been staring longingly at my neck.
He says I shouldn't tell anybody, but I thought I would just tell you guys, just in case. All right, honey.
They're like, okay, fine. Just take your skateboard, grab it.
Just grab the back of
grab
a cop
the back
car.
of a car and make sure you do it safely, though.
All right. Well, folks, I'm very stoked that we finally got to Back to the Future. It was well deserving. It could have been our leadoff episode. It could have been in any of the first episodes, but we saved it for a while. And will we ever do Back to the Future 2 and 3? I'm very interested to find out.
I think that there's a chance we could do 2.
Okay.
I think 3 is really good, but I think 2's the one that's the more interesting choice.
It's interesting because I know I watched it when it came out, and I haven't watched it from start to finish since.
I think
I've tried to watch it, and I haven't gotten through it.
3 or 2?
2.
Oh, 2.
Oh,
so
wow.
Good. 2
Oh.
so good.
So-
And, dude,
I still love
you
2.
love Leah Thompson. Like her prosthetics and like makeup that they put her in 2 is fucking insane.
I do like. I do like.
It's not very realistic.
So
but
like
it's
it
hilarious.
could be fun.
These things.
Yeah. They like made him terrible on purpose. It's fucking great.
So next week though, we get to draft.
Yes, sir. And we're going to bring a special guest who has not been on this pod in like 100 and something episodes. They were an OG on the pod, and they're going to make their triumphant return to talk about the most memorable time travel devices or machines.
Yeah, so brush up on your fucking time travel. Tell all your friends about us. Buy tickets to the fucking Catalina Wine Mixer on
August 12th.
State
Theater. That's a Saturday night, so you've got nothing to do. Get your ass over there because we're going to be eating and drinking and
We're going to host, do
putting
some trivia maybe.
silliness.
balls on drums.
You know, all the good things that you're hoping for on a Saturday night might just happen that evening. So you should be there.
Love it. Thanks for coming out. Bye-bye.